Welcome to the Flyman Fishing Show, where we talk fly fishing, fly tying, and everything in between. I'm your host, Scotty Davis. Our guest today is Yaku Lucas. Most of y'all with a computer probably know him. If not, you're probably not on social media. And you live in Texas now, right?
Yes, yeah. We moved to Texas almost 4 years ago now. So time's flying by, and I say it almost every day that I start feeling like I classify myself more and more into boomer status now, becoming a grumpy old guide and man. So yeah, no, we've been here for a while, but it's been awesome. It's been great.
How did you fare with that storm, man? That was horrible.
We got very lucky. We only lost power for one day, and then we had water and power for the most part. So we kind of got lucky. There was a few people that didn't have water or electricity for a week or more, so that kind of sucked. But everybody got through it. We suddenly quickly started realizing, like in South Africa, we used to what we call load shedding, or where the power just goes out, and it was so weird. We've gotten so used to not that happening. So when the electricity went out, we were like, what do we do now? But the worst has kind of just been the coast that's been hit pretty hard from a guiding perspective, because I spend a lot of time guiding on the Texas coast, and there was unfortunately quite a few fish kills. But you always, like as a guide, have to look at it in a positive way. I'll think it'll kick back, and hopefully people realize, like this season, they might not be able to keep as many fish as they used to, and maybe lower those limits or something.
Yeah, that's what we did a couple years ago in February. South Carolina had a really bad storm, and the state just basically shut it down. Shut the possession of them down.
It makes sense. It's kind of still sad. I know you like. There's not everything that I share that's happening out there on social media, but there's some epic stuff happening out there, and I'm there for a reason. And I think sometimes people that I've seen out there, anglers, I don't think it's from their own knowing that it's as good as it is, but they sometimes like take it a little bit for granted with like the amount of fish that they sometimes keep and take home, whether or not they consume all of it or they give it to people as gifts, and those people don't eat it and throw it away. It's just kind of, But it'll be an eye opener. I've seen a lot of tournaments, conventional tournaments, also becoming catch and release this year, and people will take the right steps.
Was it more the redfish or the sea trout that got affected?
Mostly the sea trout. There were some redfish. There were even a couple tarpon, and a few other species. But I'd say the majority is all the sea trout, just because they like to be in those shallow flats.
Yeah.
I think the redfish bounced early enough to be able to kind of get to deeper water.
What area in Texas are you guiding?
So I'm guiding on the sort of South Texas, and not south, all the way south to South Padre, but at Port O'Connor, in the Port O'Connor, Rockport, Port Aransas area.
Awesome. That's a beautiful place, man.
It is awesome. It's awesome.
So we'll talk about Captain Jack Productions. How did that start? It seems like you were born with a camera in one hand and a fly rod in the other.
Look, I always just see, I've always tried to, I try and accomplish one thing, which, like, first of all, I always loved fishing. And then I kind of met Keith Rosenis randomly in South Africa. He kind of told me about the guiding job, that you can do it for a living. I actually went through the process, working like that. He explained to me, go and work in a fly shop, finish your degree, do all that kind of stuff. Did that, and then started the guiding in the Seychelles, and then started guiding other places in the world, Norway, Mongolia. And I noticed very early on that when you're taking people to places that very few people get to see, and it's always nice to capture those memories. I've always said, like, doesn't matter how many times you video or take a photo of a GT or a GT eat, they're always going to be different. Like, you only capture those moments, are all almost priceless. So it's nice to capture as much as possible, and that's kind of where I started connecting all the dots. I wouldn't consider myself a great filmmaker, but the rawness and that kind of stuff still kind of tells the story and gets people stoked about fishing, which is the main objective.
Right, and I think that's why everybody enjoys it so much, is the rawness of it. It's not polished to an extent that it ruins it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm perfectly honest. I'm a very straightforward person. I mean, I understand my flaws and stuff, and I see other filmmakers that do phenomenal work of storytelling and cinematography and all that stuff, and I admire that stuff. But kind of just been cooking my own little recipe, and it's like I said, it seems to work, and especially with the age of social media and all that stuff, that the majority of the old school fly guys kind of still kind of getting into everything is just like needs to move, and short format everything just keeps moving. It's just yeah, and it's good to see people are hungry to see all that stuff, but there's pros and cons about all that stuff.
Yeah. So where in South Africa did you grow up?
So I mean, I was born in Johannesburg, kind of born and raised in Johannesburg. Went to school and university there, but spent a lot of time. The majority of my dad's side of the family lives in Cape Town, and my family had a little holiday home in Jeffreys Bay, and that's why I kind of grew up saltwater fishing and sort of learned the ropes with learning the ocean there. So I spent a lot of time there. And I mean, I love South Africa, but since since I finished university, I've, I can't even think how many consecutive years I must have. I don't even think I was in South Africa for more than half a year since after university. So I've always been out of the country.
Traveling, fishing, and
yeah, traveling, and we did this thing after university where we went to go, it's called a working holiday, where you go, most people went to the UK and you kind of work and have fun at the same time, and that's also where I met my wife, and that's yeah, and then it just kind of progressed from there, and just always, I mean, when I left the UK, I immediately started in the Seychelles, and then it just roller coaster from there.
that's a hell of a place to start guiding.
It's a baptism of fire.
Super Bowl.
I did some other local sort of South Africa stuff, which is South Africa has awesome fisheries. I wouldn't say a lot of them are the easiest to learn, but there's definitely some good places to sort of cut your teeth and I mean learn the basics. But and then I mean it's yeah, I mean, it was a complete baptism of fire going to Cosmolito. Just, I mean, I always say, I mean, I'll never forget that number, 373 GTs on the flats on my first week of guiding. Yeah, I mean, where do you go from there? I remember literally, so I can literally, like, if I go back to Cosmo now, I can retrace my steps exactly where I walked my first day, because it's so vivid in my memories, just exactly what happened. We had reels exploding, guys with triple ups, quadruple ups, GT. It's just chaos. So you're not guiding anymore at that stage. You're just observing and landing fish.
That's crazy. Do you remember catching your first GT?
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't. So from a flat point of view, and actually fishing the Seychelles, I guided the Seychelles basically almost 4 years before I honestly picked up a fly rod to fish the flats itself comfortably. Like went out. So I mean, I was guiding for a lot of stuff I didn't. But, you know, when we were in Cosmolito on the Indian Ocean Explorer, the late Indian Ocean Explorer, we used to have hundreds of GTs around the boat, and just to kind of practice and learn behavior and all that kind of stuff. I mean, those things were crazy. So my buddy, my Tim and myself and Keith would sometimes wait until the clients would go to bed at night, and we'd stay up till early mornings catching a couple of GTs and laughing about it. And yeah, it's a good time.
That's awesome. And they shut down that Indian Ocean operation, that boat, right?
Yeah. So I mean, that was the one. The Indian Ocean Explorer was probably one of the coolest boats that I've ever worked on. It's a like, I mean, it's a working boat, but we used to call it the animal's bum just because it smelled bad. It looked like a commercial fishing vessel. It was kind of a diving boat, but that boat was the one that got pirated. And went to Somalia, and they kind of eventually set it on fire and sank it.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah.
So you've been real busy lately with a lot of your films. Relentless, I guess, is your latest one.
Yeah, so I did. I mean, Relentless Pursuit was just kind of like almost a highlight reel of the year before, 2019, where I did quite a lot of hosted trips sort of around the world, and some exploratory trips. Yeah, it was just kind of a little stoke piece. You know, I mean, the film tours have been super amazing for such a long time, and it's had such a great format. but it definitely helps when you have really strong story-driven stories that has a little bit of a longer format to sometimes break those up with just a little bit of fish porn where guys drink beer and just have a good time and look at fish eat stuff and kill stuff. And that's kind of what I've just done the last 2 years. But next year is a massive one that I'm very excited about dropping. It's going to be a good one, and it's going to maybe throw a little bit of shade on GTs, but it's going to highlight jacks in a big way.
Nice. Is that predominantly what it's about?
Yeah, it's I mean the jack is the main honcho of the whole movie. So
Jack Crevalle included.
Yeah. So just basically telling people the story of we kind of just busy. There's some shots that have already been taken, already been doing some work on it. It's now just kind of molding the story and just like I said, the idea is they've been seen as a trash fish for so long, and they just do exactly the same as GTs. They on everybody's doorstep. I've always gotten a little bit of flack for like doing movies and promoting places that are very tough to go to or that cost a lot of money to go to. But as I explained it, the idea is not to make people jealous about places they can't go to. It's about to create that dream, because if I can go, anybody can go. But GTs have been so much on the pedestal, and they always will be. I mean, they're amazing fish to catch, but people that don't have initially the money, I mean, the jacks are on their doorstep. I mean, it's as much fun as catching a GT.
Yeah, we get really, really big ones here. I know Texas gets some really large ones too, and even in Florida, there's places that get the little tiny ones. They're just a hoot on small enough tackle,
Yeah, and I mean, I've spoken to a lot of guys. Tom Rowland, David Mangum's also going to be part of the movie, and it's I mean, to me, it's a day saver, and it's something that I always try and start my day off in the summer, early spring and summer, and in the fall, is just to get my clients into a couple of jacks. Usually they hook a big one. It's 45 minutes fight. I can sit back and relax. I can get them tired, and then we can take the day from there. So definitely a fish that's been taken for granted for too long. I've never understood why people call them trash fish, but to add to the story, jumping around now a little bit, is that if you look, if I go to the dock any given day in Texas in summer, and the conventional guys would ask me like, how did you guys do? And they're like, yeah, no, we caught a bunch of big jacks on fly. And they can't fathom that these fly pole guys are catching these jackfish.
Yeah.
And why do you want to do that? So it's crazy. But yeah, we'll definitely highlight them a little bit to make people appreciate them.
When is that going to come out?
That'll be 2022.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Working with a few cool people, and like I said, just the final details, especially just to make this one, we want to make the story also pretty good. It's going to have fish porn deluxe in it, but it's going to have a strong story to it too. I want to kind of make it a mic drop since the last time I did Gangsters of the Flat, and really make something awesome.
Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah. And speaking of dreamfish, tigerfish, you did an incredible piece on tigerfish. How was it growing up around those things?
Yeah, yes, I spoke to somebody the other day, awesome guy, Miles, about a tigerfish. I honestly still think, having been lucky enough to catch giant arapaima and all those fish, and I mean, every fish is different in their own way, but I still haven't gotten a fish that hits the fly harder than a tigerfish. The power of the initial eat is absolutely incredible. And then now in Tanzania, where the guys have been pioneering that fishery, where you're catching them up to 25 plus pounds on fly, and you're catching them on surface flies with floating lines, and just to kind of taking it to the next level. But it's a very special fish. It epitomizes if you think of fish from South Africa or Africa, I think it just kind of, that would come up, a tigerfish. It's just the wildlife tigerfish. It's all just in a nutshell.
It is. It's everything, like you said, everything kind of wrapped into one badass predator.
Yeah. And they. I mean, I've seen some stuff. They do some ferocious stuff. Just like, I mean, the Dorado in Bolivia and in Argentina too. I mean, the ferociousness is insane. So they're also always up in my top 5 of cool freshwater fish. I mean, the tigerfish would have a special place just because I'm from South Africa, so that'll just trump that.
Yeah, they're not quite as pretty as a spawned out golden dorado, but they really make up for it in that mouth, man. It is incredible. I grew up with
Yeah.
striped bass, so it's kind of the middle of the fish is plain, but their tail, when they get that spawning colors, and obviously their business end, man, that's no joke on those things. What size wire leader do you use for that?
I mean, we don't. We've been playing around with a lot of different ones, but at this stage we're using that knottable wire. The guys from African Waters have got their own. I don't know if it's the actual brand that they use themselves, but I think that's a 40-pound one, and that seemed to last pretty well. I mean, usually still pop fish, and I've got other friends of mine that just actually got back from just another. Excuse me, they kind of pioneering this Goliath tiger fishery too in Central African Republic, and they just actually sent me some photos today, and I think you might have to up the wire for those things because they're big and those teeth are massive, and it's so I mean, it's for me with a tiger fish, it's usually getting over that initial hit. If you can get past that, then you can kind of work it out from there. But
so they're predatory. Are they mainly chasing small bait fish, or why the hell their teeth look like that?
Yeah. I think it's the same kind of sense as with Payara, the extended teeth, that they have it like that, where as with piranha, they kind of just chomp through stuff and slice through it. Whereas with tigerfish, I think some of them, they interlock, but it feels to me like it's more of a grippy style of teeth where they can actually just grip their prey and kind of hold it and just yank it and swallow it back in. But I mean, you do see, we've had tigerfish attack where you'll have a bit chomped out of them, but usually it's almost as if they grab and hold and shake it around and then kind of swallow it down. So yeah, no, they cool.
That's crazy. Are you do you have hosted trips planned to go back and do any of that?
I mean, the Tanzania and all the Africa, all those places I definitely have on the hit list as soon as possible. It's just been such a, I mean, like with just any form of traveling, it's just been so detrimental to the international fly fishing travel industry. It's kind of been a shame, but I think I get a feeling now it's slowly going to just start getting better and better and better. Spoke to my friends at Yellow Dog and all those places. Seems like people are slowly getting into a little bit more comfort, but I think the big, like, those ones I was supposed to be in the Seychelles and Cosmolito a couple of weeks back. That got cancelled, and now my next one is in January. I feel pretty good about that next year. So hopefully we can start getting just the travel thing going again.
Yeah, I guess most of your.
I can tell you now, another place that you'll find absolutely amazing, just with regards to the whole tigerfish thing, is Cameroon. Like when it comes to giant Nile perch, in like the smallest piece of water you can. I'm talking like 100+ pound Nile perch on fly, on foot. And then there's 3 species of tigerfish you can catch there. The guys, again, there's the African water guys, have just been like pioneering all that stuff. It's insanity. It's one of the coolest adventures that I've done to date.
Awesome. So the Goliath grouper, does it gets more colorful than the other ones too? Is that right? Or
the Goliath tigerfish?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. So it has very similar. I mean, obviously it gets to over 100 pounds historically, or in that 100-pound range. So it definitely is a lot bigger than any of the tigerfish species. I think the ones in Tanzania would probably cap out at like 35 pounds. And there's maybe stories of like 40-pound ones, but those ones get up to 100 pounds. And they just, when they get that size, I mean, the teeth are a couple inches long. It's just the body definitely gets more round and fat, but it's just the look kind of still similar. It's just all just almost mutated bigger.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No,
medieval.
The unfortunate thing with them though is and there's a few African fisheries like that where, I mean, it has to be like, a lot of those fisheries are hard to get to, because those fisheries have to be far from civilization, because unfortunately people are not educated. Like the place that we go and catch those big Nile perch and those tiger fish in Cameroon is so vulnerable. I mean, I can honestly say it'd be the easiest place, I think, if you had to go net that place. It's just vulnerable, especially low water, when it's very low water. So in itself, it's almost an anomaly that those Nile perch are still there, and it just shows how wild it is. So yeah, I mean, it's hopefully people, I know all those guys that run those operation are getting all the local people involved in understanding how fragile and how few of those places are left in the world. So in all honesty, I've seen a lot of those people actually react better to conservation than from some of the folks in Texas. So that gives you an idea, because I mean, they see the guys coming in to fish, and they see the impact it has on them, and so yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah, the economic impact could definitely be there for sure.
Yeah,
But
I
not
mean,
that you'd want to exploit a fishery like that too, like you were saying.
no, I mean, and I think I always like to say within fly fishing, I mean, any place that we go to, whether it's Cosmolito or Cameroon or Mongolia, all those places, we're always going to have some form of footprint, but it's still so small and minute compared to any other form of fishing, that I think, and we're so conscious about those areas that I think if they just get looked after, they just need to be understood better and looked after. That's all.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what other hosted trips do you have planned? I know 2020 probably all got shot to hell.
Yeah. 2020. I mean, 2020, I was lucky to really build my Texas guiding stuff. So I was focusing on that a lot. And I was very fortunate because I was always thinking on all my international guide friends that were stuck all over the world and not being able to guide. So I saw that as a very fortunate position to be in. But so I'm actually going to Honduras tomorrow with the Yeti crew and photographer Nick Kelly, which is one of the best photographers on the planet. We're gonna just do some of the stuff for the new Yeti products and sneak a little bit of permit fishing in. And then from there onwards, the guiding schedule is booking up quite a bit. But then I've got some trips I've got a Christmas Island trip that I'm really looking forward to, because the place has been closed for a while now because they shut down completely for anybody to come in. We're hoping everything goes smoothly and they open up again. They seem to opening the restrictions and getting flights in, of my understanding. And then hopefully Christmas Island happens. Then I've got a trip to Piro Ruku where we catch those giant arapaima. And also it's a back-to-back trip for the arapaima, and then we go for the payara in Xingu with the Untamed Angling Boys. So that's going to be a cool one, fishing for the biggest scaled fish and then breaking new fish which has got teeth this long. And then the next one, planning just actually yesterday put it in the books for to catch some of those stripers on fly in Mag Bay with those boys. They've been doing a pretty cool job. I've been dying to get down there side fishing at Striped Marlin on fly. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, yeah. I mean, I just keep on pending. There's a lot of stuff pending, but it's just still difficult to 100% say that everything's a go.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the works. That's never going to end.
That's cool. Cool. You get to leave tomorrow.
Yes, very excited about it.
Are y'all going to Roatan?
Yes. Yeah.
Very cool.
I don't know exactly our schedule. I literally got told, "Do you want to go?" And I said yes. And I was like, I got the flights, and that's as far as I know. So I'm just rolling with it. But we're going to Roatan, and then we're kind of just working it from there. So yeah, excited for that. I was fortunately and unfortunately so spoiled with my last trip to Punta Island last year, September, that I mean, I don't really have any more expectations than what I had on that trip, because I mean, we got 52 permit in a week between 4 people.
What?
Yeah, so it's silly. So it's gonna. I know I'm gonna get humbled at some point by them, which could be now.
Now that you said that, that's incredible. 52 permit between 4 people.
Yeah. It was the client that was kind enough to take me with on the trip, and our first day out we got 12 permit. We had a quadruple up. The guides were kind of like just going crazy, and we were hooking up. The schoolies weren't the biggest fish. They were eating and hungry. We did get a lot of really good sized ones, but I mean, literally, we had found this group of fish, cast in, double hook up, land. The guides were just holding on to them. Like, don't hold on to them too long. If they're ready to go, let them go. Immediately hooked up again. It was like a production.
Jesus, how'd you leave that? How'd you leave that place?
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, and the client that I went with, like, I mean, I've been guiding for Indo-Pacific permit and those permit a lot, and I'd spent a little bit of time for Atlantic permit. So I know the deal. I mean, you're going to get burnt and they're going to teach you a lesson at some point. But this was just a combination of everything coming together. Like, we had the right moon phase, we had the right tide, we had the weather conditions that you would like dream about, flat, like just calm enough, but a little bit of wind, so there's not just too flat. And it was crazy. I mean, the permit fishing was so good. After we started getting really like, I mean, what do we do from here? We one day we said, like, can we try for a Grand Slam? And both me and my client. So the permit fishing was so good, we actually had to try and get the tarpon first to go for the Grand Slam to get the permit.
I've had some big trouble with permit before. This makes my stomach hurt.
Yeah, and it's going to make a lot of people like. But I'm telling you, this is like I said to my client when we left, once in a life, we're never going to see this again. It's impossible. It seems like the permit fishing's still been pretty good in Roatan, Honduras, like around Mexico. Like, I'm seeing a lot of people catching a lot of permit, and so I don't know. Like, I mean, how long it can continue, if it's like an anomaly, what's going on.
How do they compare to the Indo-Pacific permit?
So, I mean, it's going to be a heavily debated subject, and I'll probably piss off a lot of Atlantic's guides. But I think it's very it's permit fishing is permit fishing. It doesn't matter what species of permit you want to go target. I think it's got a lot to do with the amount of pressure that they see. So, I mean, the permit that we're fishing in the Seychelles and Australia and all those places, those fish get almost fished to never. So they are dumber. So they're easier to catch, obviously. But when we get clients then from the US, like say, for example, US that's been fishing for Atlantics in Florida and those places, they go like, these permit are easy, but they're just easy because they don't get fished to a lot. But and that's why I saw it in Mexico, is just those permit hadn't been fished for because it was closed for the whole coronavirus thing. And we had the right tides, and those fish were just happy and eating hard. And we did get a couple of fish where, like, I mean, my biggest fish I honestly was so pumped about how well I fished on a super long 18-foot leader, big fly. It was just, everything was, I felt very good about catching that fish. But for the most part, they were just super happy. But that's kind of what I think. Pressure, and we also wade fish for our permit for the most part. And I feel when you're wade fishing for a permit, you're in a very controlled environment, as if you're a good angler. Like, you know when to move, where the fish is maybe going, and you can keep yourself. We're in a skiff, like, you're always getting like pushed somewhere, and you may be catching up on line, not stripping. So that's it. But yeah, it's been awesome.
I guess an animal walking through the water would sound more natural to a permit too than a boat slap coming through.
Yeah, I mean, getting a pulse, like if you hit the coral or you pull it out in a specific way out of the sand, and it's just, I mean, it's unnatural noise for them. So, and if you walk correctly and wade correctly, it's definitely I think your chances are way better. And I mean, Nathaniel Landville, that's catching all those permit world record, and those guys, they're showing it every time. I mean, he jumps out of the boat, I don't know how many times, but it seems like a lot when he goes for his permit, and he caught 3 the day before yesterday. He got another 1 yesterday. It's nuts. So yeah, but I mean, my personal mission now is so I was lucky enough to get an ANAC permit in Australia, and I've got the one called the Blocky, which is the Indo-Pacific permit, and then I've got the Atlantic now, and now just the final one that I have to try and get is the Africanos, which you get in Oman for the most part. Those guys have kind of pioneered those permit over there.
Where are those found?
I mean, they fishing. When they're fishing for those Africanos, they're fishing off these like these oyster shelves. So you can on an off chance catch them wade fishing, but for the most part, you like. I think they use a trolling motor, or they just kind of drift into these big oyster banks, and those fish are literally will beach themselves and sort of eat, and they get sucked out by the tide. So you just like a timing where you have to get the fly in the right spot, and then once you hook them, they just like pull them out of the oysters and stuff. So I'm excited to go and give those a try. I know there was another a friend of mine that's actually gotten a 5th species of permit that you actually get in India, a mulak or something like that. But I mean, I think the chances of ever catch, because he actually caught that one in Oman, and I think the chance of catching that one is you've got to be struck by lightning a couple times before you get that. He was very lucky and he got it. So
that seems to be a cool fishery over there. Have you got a chance to fish that?
it's going to
Oman?
be like it's been in the books now for a while. I've just been back and forth with Nick Bowles from Ocean Active and a couple of my buddies down there to get in there. But it's awesome. It's so different, like these vast beaches. And even when we went to go fish Sudan, when I fished with Oliver White there, it's just like this weird scenery. We've got this tropical ocean in front of you, and then you look back, it's desert or these like rock formations. It's a very strange place, and it's got all these different species. And genetically, some of the biggest GTs on the planet is in Oman too. The dimensions, girth, length, and I mean, rumor has it that there's been, and my buddy Ed hasn't sent me a photo, but I think rumor has it that there's been an 80-kilo one caught on a conventional plug. I mean, that's over 160 pounds.
Yeah, I'd be scared to swim in the ocean with that thing.
Yeah, that's an animal. That's a farm animal. Yeah, so there's some special stuff still out there that I mean, obviously the travel restrictions and all that stuff has made it. I kind of feel like, I mean, it was great to spend a little bit more time at home with the family and all that kind of stuff. But you kind of have now, I mean, we only live as long as we live. So to try and take a year out of seeing some other cool places is a lot. So you kind of like just like edgy, you need to get out and do something.
For a guy like you, this has got to be just hell on earth being kind of locked up. But like you said, you have the whole the Texas coast to kind of keep you somewhat sane, I guess.
Yeah, that was my fix. I mean, I honestly, apart from seeing new stuff, I mean, I honestly, the best part of everything I do is guiding and being on the water. It's a super rewarding job. I can't say enough good things about it. I mean, I feel like you have to be born really enjoying it, and but I honestly do enjoy it. And the nice thing about the Texas coast is it's new for me, so I'm seeing new stuff and learning a lot, and it's been very exciting.
So that's cool. And you also got it in Mongolia, didn't you?
Yeah,
spent some time there.
Yeah, I spent 7 years guiding in Mongolia. So at one stage, like for like 5 or 6 years, I was going to the Seychelles for 3.5 months or 3 months. Yeah, about 3.5 months. Then I would go home, change my bag completely, pick up my waders and all that stuff, go to Norway for 3.5 months. Then from Norway, I used to fly directly to Mongolia. Finish the season in Mongolia was short season, it was about 6 weeks, and then get back, change into the tropical stuff, and go to the Seychelles till Christmas Eve, usually. So, but I honestly, Mongolia to me would be also one of my most special places on the planet. Just time in themselves, the fishery, the people, the whole experience to me is just it's very different, and it's awesome. It's really awesome. I mean, you're fishing for a trout that can grow 150 pounds, so that's as good as it gets for trout fishing. It's not easy though.
Yeah, that's one of those places. What little I know about it, I think the culture and everything would just I'd fall in love with that just as much as the fishing. The people seem super friendly, and
it is
that nomadic 100%. Lifestyle.
I mean, and they just, you know, with the world we live in now, and again, the more I see stuff on news, and I think obviously we get caught up in it a lot more so in the US. I think I never remember in South Africa that I used to follow the news as much, but like you go to Mongolia, those people don't give a flying monkey's uncle about Instagram or like any of that, like, or the people that I spend time with there. It's just real people. They deal with issues. Like if you do something stupid, they'll call you out, but you need to understand you made a mistake or whatever. Like that, there's no BS, and I just loved it. And they're kind people. They'll give you anything. They'll give you the food off of their plate that they've saved for winter to you. Just like, I mean, a lot of and the one thing that was very special to see there is how the Mongolians, especially a guy, Ghana and Baira and some of the guys that still guide there, how they've created a fly fishing culture in Mongolia. I remember the last season I was there, now almost the last day I came back up to camp with my clients, and I don't know if they had licenses or not. I didn't really care, but there were 3 Mongolians down the river spay casting and doing these perfect single spay, double spay. They were just doing everything you can imagine. I was like, man, that's awesome. They really get it, and you wouldn't imagine. And they really care for their fishery for the most part. And yeah, it was great.
Cool. Is the government there pretty proactive on protecting that?
I mean, as much as they could, because Mongolia is so vast. I think the crazy thing is it's a lot of open spaces. So I believe 2/3 of the Mongolian population live in Ulaanbaatar, the main city, and the other third's nomads, people living in other little towns and around, but it's very open and vast. So you see these girls every now and then. We used to drive to camp, and they'd have cows and horses and goats and land, sheep and everything. So they definitely live off the land. But yeah, it was cool. I think also, like, from a story perspective, there's one thing I'll never forget. That was my second last year. Is I had a client that had been taimen fishing for a long time. His whole family does muskie fishing, so they kind of get the deal for fish that are hard to catch. Paul Hannafelt, if he ever listens to this. So we've been trying to get him into a 50-inch fish. He's been doing this trip for a while, and a few of the people that went with him got their 50 inches. That's like the one where it's like your super bragging rights if you catch a 50-inch taimen. And he'd missed a few, but the one day, so we're fishing this one spot that I knew held big fish, but you never know exactly where they're holding in the pond, if they're in a feeding position or if they're just chilling. But he hooked a fish, which we know now because I measured it out, a 30-inch taimen, and it just kind of swam like normal, made one jump, and then I just started shooting to the bank, and I just saw a massive tail come up. I'm like, Paul, this thing's getting eaten. It's getting chowed. Feed it line, give it everything you have, let it swallow it. Knowing that the fly is going to be in the other taimen's mouth, the only chance we have of getting this thing even close to the boat is because their teeth are like an anaconda, shaped like an anaconda, so they all face backwards. So once they start like getting it back, kind of sits there pretty tight. So we had it swallowed, and then I slowly picked up the anchor and dropped down, and we got on top of the fish, and all we saw was just a little tip of the tail sticking out. And I was like, man, if I can stay below this, I don't think we can get it yanked out. So, we probably played it for, honestly, like 15 minutes. Got it up close to the net a few times. I was almost touching it with the net, but it did one last dive underneath the boat, and it broke the rod into a million pieces. And unfortunately, the drag locked up, and it went downstream of us, and the fish that was in its mouth got yanked out. But
so at least got a 30-incher.
It swallowed a 30-incher. So the mind can play whatever it wants to play. But we landed a 52-incher in and around that area a couple days after, and it was when we saw the 52-incher, we immediately said, this thing is definitely smaller than the other fish we hooked. So it could have been 60, could have been whatever. So wow. It's, and a lot of people that see photos of taimen, I think that the photos for the most part don't do them enough justice. They look kind of like snaky and stuff, but their heads are just phenomenally wide all the way through the back of the body. It's slender like this, but it's just thick. The ones in Siberia, those heavy big ones that some of my friends have been catching, those ones have got other dimensions because they feed on salmon and other stuff that also genetically makes them grow like steroids. But these ones all, we've seen those taimen in Mongolia eat baby ducks, mergansers, and just, it's the coolest thing when you see them actively hunting.
Yeah. So you're swinging bigger flies downstream for those guys?
Yeah. It's all kind of like, so we try, the coolest thing is obviously getting the surface eat. So we usually skate big mouse or squirrel patterns across the surface with like 9 and 10 weights. And then it kind of progresses. Sometimes we start fishing a little bit deeper with the sinking lines. And the big game changer, pardon using the word, but I got some flies from Chris Willen and Blaine Chocolate. And they were, I'd never seen really flies that size at that stage, which they were using for muskie. And that seemed to be more effective for bigger fish. All the fish would eat them, but definitely, I would say taimen for the most part are not feeding. They're kind of hanging around, and then maybe they're feeding at night or something, but they're very inactive. But now we found flies that can activate a fish that is just sitting still, which is like the T-bones and the game changers, but those big ones.
Yeah. So
a fish that might have not been on the bite, we can get him to eat.
Crazy. The Siberian ones, you said they're eating salmon?
Yeah. They eat salmon. They legit, these guys, the last trip, my buddy Keith and Ilya and them did, I honestly like that. They broke every single, I think, world record that there was possible for taimen on a fly rod. But I think the largest one was, I believe 48 kilos or maybe more. I mean 100 and something odd pounds. But I mean, those things are just it's scary. I mean, this is my next, like, apart from trying to catch a Goliath tiger on fly, like those taimen are really high on my hit list. Like I've been talking to Ilya endlessly about trying to do that trip. And they're using again massive flies, huge rods, but they for the most part catching those on deeper lines. I think those taimen usually are not used to hitting surface stuff, so they catch them deeper, and they're chock full of salmon. They just eat everything.
That's nuts. Are they using two-handed rods?
Yeah, for them. Yeah, I think that style of angling there and the size of water definitely requires all that equipment. I think they have even special made for double-handed rods for that whole process too, like stiffer. Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah.
In Brazil, you got it in Brazil too. I mean, all over the place.
All that South America, I think South America still, for the most part, I mean, with regards to different fishing opportunities, is still one of the coolest places. I mean, you get way south to Tierra del Fuego for the sea run brown trout, which is amazing. The weirdest, bizarre landscape, wind always blowing. You've got places like Jurassic Lake with massive trout, and then you've got all the other Chile and Patagonia and all those places. And then you go further up north, and then you go into where the Dorado stuff is, and the marsh and it's a lot. And that's not even the saltwater side of all of that stuff. So South America, it'd be awesome to just spend a lot of time just out there. One other place there on my hit list is to try and fish Suriname for those big wolf fish, those ones that look like coelacanths, like with giant teeth, that Larry Dahlberg and those guys are caught. That's definitely on the hit list. So it's everybody. There's a lot of people that also would ask, like, what's the top next trip, or do you have a lot of places to see? And I mean, it's the bucket list is never ending. I mean, it's can always keep going.
Yeah.
But I still always try and preach a little bit to still appreciate the local, like, stuff that you have close to you, whether you go fishing for trout or for bass or something like that. I still enjoy that. It's nothing wrong with that. I'll definitely a fish slut. I'll catch anything that swims.
Most fish porn producers are like that.
Yeah, exactly. Anything.
Yeah.
Anything. But yeah, it's. I mean, there's definitely a few fish that I definitely would always recommend and places for people to see. But for the most part, like I said, just enjoy. Even like when I go into Cosmolido, I always tell people to catch anything that swims in front of you. You can have your dream of catching a giant GT, but catch the triggerfish, the bonefish, the pouter bream, the little brock, like triggerfish, all this stuff. The groupers, the snappers, wrasse, all that stuff. They're all fun. They keep you busy.
Yeah, it might be your only chance to catch them too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good luck in Honduras. How long y'all down there for?
We get back next week Wednesday. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see where we get to. Like I said, I'm just going with the flow. I'm packing some permit stuff. Hopefully I've got the right, I'm sure I'll have some stuff that might work. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's awesome. A new experience for me, so I'll soak it in. Whatever it is.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing all the pictures and stuff when you get back.
Should be with Nick Kelly there. It'll be good. It'll be good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. But again, yeah, I mean, there's the hopefully the travel restrictions can like relax a little bit, and we can get out to places and just travel more normal. I think we should have always been wearing masks on plane for the most part. I think I even said it to many people even before coronavirus, because planes are so gross, really. But anyway, here we are walking with masks everywhere.
Yeah, I'm about over it.
Yeah. Are you getting some time out to fish too, though? Like, I mean, getting out on the water.
Who, me?
Yeah.
A little bit. It's been great. The redfish has been great all winter here. The water's been clear. Been taking my kids out a good bit. So nice. Yeah, we've been staying on them pretty good. It was 80 degrees 2 days ago. Now the high today is 48.
I'm trying to get that too, even with Texas.
Ugh.
2 days after we had the biggest snowstorm ever, it was up in the 70s. Snow's gone. Like, what happened? Everybody's shell shocked. The shops are empty. Everybody was panic buying. Yeah. So
Bought a bunch of firewood you now don't need.
yeah, exactly. So definitely interesting. But I mean, these things happen. There's a lot of serious things happening in the world when we start talking about climate change and all that stuff. But I mean, some of the stuff, I mean, it kind of makes it makes sense. I mean, you see water temperature changes, seasons changes. I've seen it in other places, like how the seasons might be a little bit later than usual and all that kind of stuff. So it's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day talking to me.
awesome. No, thank you so much for having me. And hopefully we can get to fish together at some point soon.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let me know when you come to town. We'll take you out.
Excellent. We'll do. Same here. Come and
Good luck in Honduras.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. See ya.
Scotty. Cheers.